Have you ever felt like your mind was breaking? Like something inside you was damaged beyond repair? Look at me. I'm talking to you directly. Yes, you. The one who's watching right now because something in your life has left you wounded in ways others can't see. You're not alone. Every human mind can be injured just like a body can. And just like physical wounds, mental ones can heal too, but they need the right medicine. What if I told you that some of the most powerful healing wisdom wasn't created by modern psychology, but was discovered over 2,500 years ago? Ancient masters found secrets to mental recovery so effective that they're still working today. These aren't complicated techniques requiring years of study. They're simple stories and truths that can change everything about how you see your pain. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share 5 powerful lessons that have helped countless people recover from their deepest mental wounds. No matter what you're carrying, trauma, grief, anxiety, depression, or just feeling lost, there's a path forward. Our journey starts with what might be the hardest step: true acceptance. Not giving up, not settling, not pretending everything's fine when it isn't, but something much more powerful: seeing reality exactly as it is, without the extra suffering we add to it. A young scholar once visited a wise master, his mind overflowing with knowledge and opinions. As they sat for tea, the master kept pouring into the scholar's cup, even as it spilled over the sides. "Stop," cried the scholar. "Can't you see it's already full?" The master smiled gently. "Like this cup, your mind is so full of your own ideas that nothing new can enter. To learn, you must first empty your cup." When we suffer, our minds fill with painful thoughts and feelings that leave no room for healing. We replay hurtful events, blame ourselves or others, and create stories about what everything means. These thoughts aren't the truth. They're just our cup overflowing. Acceptance begins with creating space. We must empty our cup of judgments about how things should be, making room for what actually is. This doesn't mean approving of what happened or giving up on change. It means seeing clearly without the extra weight of resistance. In a small village lived a farmer who owned a beautiful horse. One day, the horse ran away. The villagers came saying, "What terrible luck!" The farmer simply replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." A week later, the horse returned with 7 wild horses. The villagers exclaimed, "What wonderful fortune!" Again, the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Later, the farmer's son fell while taming one of these horses, breaking his leg. The villagers sighed, "Such misfortune." The farmer repeated, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Soon after, war broke out and all able young men were drafted, except the farmer's son with his broken leg. Life's events aren't inherently good or bad until we label them. When something painful happens, we quickly judge it as terrible, making our suffering worse. The farmer shows another way, holding life lightly without rushing to judgment. When we face psychological wounds, acceptance means pausing before we decide what an experience means. It means staying open to the possibility that even painful events may connect to future healing in ways we cannot yet see. A notorious bandit who had harmed many people finally faced justice for his crimes. As he awaited punishment, a monk visited him. Instead of judgment, the monk showed compassion. "What you did caused great suffering," the monk acknowledged. "But you are more than your worst actions." Day after day, the monk returned. Gradually, the bandit began to speak of his own childhood wounds that had twisted his path. As he came to understand himself, genuine remorse arose. Though he couldn't undo his past, he found a way to make peace with it. Through acceptance, pain transforms. When we stop running from difficult emotions and instead turn toward them with kindness, they begin to shift. The wound doesn't disappear, but it stops defining us. This acceptance isn't passive, it's deeply active. It requires courage to face what hurts without either clinging to it or pushing it away. But in this honest meeting of our experience, we find the seeds of healing already present. Now that you understand acceptance, let's talk about the next crucial step, letting go. These two might sound similar, but they're quite different. Acceptance is seeing things as they really are. Letting go is not allowing them to control you anymore. Think of it this way. If you're holding a hot coal in your hand, acceptance is acknowledging, yes, this is burning me. Letting go is actually opening your fingers and dropping it. Two monks were walking along a muddy road after heavy rain. At a crossing, they met a beautiful young woman unable to cross without ruining her silk clothes. Without hesitation, the older monk carried her across. Hours later, the younger monk, clearly troubled, said, "How could you, a monk who shouldn't touch women, carry that woman?" The older monk smiled. "I left her at the crossing. Are you still carrying her?" We all have moments from our past that stick to us like burrs. Harsh words from a parent, betrayal by someone we trusted, mistakes we deeply regret. We replay these scenes thousands of times, each replay causing fresh pain as if it happened today. The younger monk physically left the woman at the crossing, but mentally carried her for hours afterward. His mind was trapped in what already happened and couldn't be changed. When painful memories arise, notice them without judgment. Say to yourself, this is just a memory passing through. Feel where it creates tension in your body and consciously relax those places. Remember, you can acknowledge what happened without letting it define your present moment. A master was known for a beautiful tea set, especially a rare cup passed down through generations. A student visiting clumsily knocked over the cup, breaking it. As the student began apologizing frantically, the master said, "That cup was already broken the moment I received it." "What do you mean?" "It was in perfect condition until I broke it." The student protested. Everything that exists will eventually break, change, or disappear. The cup's breaking was inevitable. It just happened to occur now through you. Half our mental suffering comes not from what happens, but from how we expected things to be different. We create perfect scenarios in our minds, how people should behave, how our lives should unfold, how we ourselves should feel and think, then feel crushed when reality takes a different path. The master knew the cup would eventually break, so when it did, he felt no shock or distress. Can you hold your expectations lightly, recognizing they're just one possibility among many? When plans crumble, can you say, "This too is part of life," rather than "this shouldn't be happening"? In a king's garden stood a tall bamboo that he greatly admired. One day, the gardener came with sharp tools to cut it down. "Why?" cried the bamboo. "I'm your finest plant." The king needs a water pipe to bring water from the mountain spring to the dry valley. Only you are strong yet hollow enough for this purpose. The bamboo had to be cut, its branches stripped, its inner walls cleaned out. Yet in this emptiness, it found new purpose, becoming a channel bringing life-giving water to many. Sometimes we cling to who we think we are, our roles, beliefs, habits, even when they no longer serve us. We resist change because emptiness feels frightening. Yet only in letting go of what we were can we discover what we might become. The bamboo's emptiness wasn't a loss, but a possibility. When you release old wounds, outdated beliefs, and rigid ideas about yourself, you create space where new life can flow. This emptiness isn't nothing. It's potential waiting to be filled. After learning to accept what is and let go of what weighs you down, the next step is learning to stay present. This is what mindfulness is all about. Being fully here, right now. Why is this so important for healing? Because most of our suffering happens when we're caught up in regrets about the past or worries about the future. But healing can only happen in the present moment. An archery master was training a student who couldn't hit the target. Despite perfect technique, the student's arrows always missed. "What am I doing wrong?" the frustrated student asked. The master observed. You're shooting the arrow and looking immediately to see if you hit the mark. Your mind is already on the result before the arrow has even left the bow. "So what should I do?" asked the student. "When you draw the bow, be fully in that moment. When you aim, be fully in that moment. When you release, be fully in that moment. Don't split yourself between what you're doing now and what might happen later." The student tried again, focusing completely on each step. His very next arrow hit the center of the target. Our minds are like that archer, always splitting our attention, never fully where we are. We eat lunch while thinking about work. We talk with friends while our minds wander to tomorrow's problems. We lie awake replaying conversations or rehearsing future ones. This scattered attention makes our psychological wounds worse. When we're caught in painful memories, we're not just remembering them, we're reliving them, triggering the same stress chemicals in our bodies as the original event. The solution is simple, but takes practice. Come back to now. Notice when your mind is wandered and gently bring it back to whatever is happening in this moment. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice your breath. Listen to the sounds around you. This isn't avoiding problems. It's giving yourself a break from them so healing can happen. A student asked his teacher, "My mind is always in chaos. Thoughts race everywhere. How can I find peace?" The teacher handed him a glass of muddy water. "What do you see?" "Dirty water," replied the student. "Leave it alone," instructed the teacher. "Just watch it without disturbing it." After an hour, the teacher returned. "Look now, what do you see?" The student looked at the glass. The dirt has settled to the bottom. The water is clear. Your mind works the same way, explained the teacher. When you just observe your thoughts without chasing or fighting them, they naturally settle and clarity emerges. When we're hurting mentally, we tend to do one of two things with difficult thoughts and feelings. We either get tangled up in them and believe everything they tell us, or we try desperately to push them away and escape them. Neither approach works. Fighting thoughts makes them stronger. Believing every thought leaves us at the mercy of our worst moments. The middle way is to become a kind observer of your own experience. When a difficult thought arises, simply note thinking without getting caught in its story. When an emotion surfaces, name it. Sadness is here. Anger is visiting, without judging it as bad or something to fix. This gentle noticing creates space between you and your thoughts. They become like clouds passing through the sky of your awareness rather than defining who you are. A young monk complained constantly about the temple's worn-out sandals. "Here is some leather," his teacher said. "You can cover the whole path with it so your feet never touch the rough ground. Or you can use just a small piece to cover your feet. Which is wiser?" The everyday practice of mindfulness is like putting sandals on your feet rather than trying to carpet the whole world. You can't control all your circumstances, but you can change how you relate to them. At first, mindfulness might seem too simple to help with serious mental wounds, but its power comes through consistent practice. Just as you wouldn't expect to get physically fit by exercising once, mental fitness requires regular training. Start with just 5 minutes daily of sitting quietly and noticing your breath. When the mind wanders, gently bring it back. Gradually extend this practice into everyday activities, washing dishes, walking, even difficult conversations. This growing awareness begins to show you patterns you couldn't see before. You notice what triggers your pain and how you automatically react. These insights become the foundation for lasting change. You can't transform what you don't first acknowledge. Now that you know how to stay present with your experience, the next step is discovering the hidden gifts within your pain. This might sound strange. How can suffering possibly contain gifts? But some of the most profound healing happens when we find meaning in our difficulties. In ancient times, a goldsmith explained his craft to an apprentice. "Look closely at what I do with this raw gold. First, I put it in the hottest part of the fire. Then I hammer it, fold it, and put it back in the fire again and again. Why torture it so? Ask the apprentice. I'm not torturing it, replied the goldsmith. The fire burns away the impurities. The hammering strengthens it. Without this process, the gold remains weak and its true brilliance never appears. Hard experiences often work on us like fireworks on gold. They burn away what's not essential. They reveal strengths we never knew we had. They can even transform us into something more beautiful than before. A woman who survived a devastating illness discovered she could help others facing the same challenge. A man who lost everything found a freedom he never knew when he owned many possessions. A youth who faced rejection developed resilience that later helped him achieve what others thought impossible. This doesn't mean suffering is good or necessary. It doesn't mean we should seek it out or stay in harmful situations. It simply means that when difficult experiences find us, as they find everyone, we can look for ways they might be transforming us for the better. Ask yourself, how has this difficult experience changed me? What strengths have I discovered that I didn't know I had? How might this make me more able to connect with and help others? A student was walking up a mountain path when his foot hit a large stone, causing him to fall and hurt his knee. Why did you put this stone in my path? He angrily asked his teacher. The teacher replied, I didn't put it there, but you have a choice about the story you tell about it. You could say, this stone hurt me. What terrible luck. Or you could say, this stone reminded me to watch my step more carefully. The student thought for a moment. I suppose I could even say, this stone taught me that even small obstacles can cause great pain if I'm not mindful. The teacher smiled. Now you're finding the teaching. We all tell stories about our wounds, why they happened, what they mean about us in the world, how they'll affect our future. These stories are powerful. They can either keep us trapped in suffering or help us grow beyond it. Some stories leave us feeling like victims. This happened because I'm unlucky or unworthy. I'll never recover from this. The world is against me. Other stories open doors to healing. This difficult experience is teaching me something I needed to learn. I'm being challenged to grow in ways I wouldn't have chosen but might ultimately value. This pain connects me to others who suffer similarly. You didn't choose many of the painful events in your life, but you can choose what story you tell about them. Look for narratives that honor your pain while also making room for possibility, growth, and meaning. An ancient legend tells of a seeker climbing a treacherous mountain path. Along the way, he faced fierce storms, dangerous cliffs, and inner demons of doubt and fear. When he finally reached the summit, exhausted but triumphant, he found not a treasure or magical power, but a mirror. Looking into it, he saw himself, transformed by the journey, stronger and wiser than before. The real summit wasn't the mountaintop, but the person he had become by climbing it. Every wound creates an invitation to a hero's journey, not one of slaying dragons or saving kingdoms, but of facing the darkest parts of your experience and finding your way through them. This journey has stages that many recognize. First comes the wound itself, the unwanted challenge that disrupts your normal life. Then comes the struggle, fighting against what's happened, trying to make it go away. When that doesn't work, there's often a surrender, accepting the reality of your situation. Only then can the real transformation begin. You start to find resources within yourself and around you that you never knew existed. You discover new strengths. You connect with others who understand. You find meaning that makes the suffering bearable. And finally, you return not to who you were before, but as someone who carries both the wound and the wisdom it brought you. The wound may still hurt sometimes, but it no longer defines you. Instead, it has become part of your unique gift to a world where everyone is wounded in some way. The journey of healing isn't meant to be walked alone. After finding meaning in your suffering, The final step is reconnecting with others in healthy ways. Our wounds often happen in relationships, and much of our healing happens there too. In an ancient temple, students spent the early morning polishing mirrors together. One day, a new student asked the teacher, "Why do we waste time on this when we could be meditating?" The teacher replied, "Look around you. Can you see your whole face by yourself?" "No," said the student. "I can only see parts of it in my own mirror." "Now, look at your face reflected in the mirrors your brothers and sisters are holding. What do you see?" The student gasped. "I can see all of myself, even the parts I usually miss." "This is why we practice together," said the teacher. Others reflect back to us what we cannot see in ourselves. We all have blind spots, patterns we can't recognize, strengths we undervalue, potential we can't imagine for ourselves. When we isolate with our wounds, these blind spots often grow larger. We get stuck in loops of negative thinking that seem completely true because there's no one to offer a different perspective. Healthy relationships act as mirrors, helping us see ourselves more clearly and completely. A friend might point out a pattern you hadn't noticed. Have you realized you always blame yourself when others make mistakes? A family member might remind you of strengths you've forgotten. Remember how you helped me through that difficult time? You've always been so patient. Finding people who can reflect both your struggles and your gifts with kindness is essential for deep healing. These don't have to be professional helpers, though they can be. Often, a small circle of trusted friends or family members who listen without judgment can be profoundly healing. A notorious criminal terrorized a village for years. One day, he came to rob a solitary teacher who lived outside the village. Instead of fear or resistance, the teacher welcomed him warmly, prepared tea, and offered him food as an honored guest. Confused, the criminal growled, "Don't you know who I am? I could kill you without a second thought." The teacher replied calmly, "And don't you know who I am? I could love you without a second thought." The criminal, who had never experienced such kindness, found himself unable to harm the teacher. Over time, he returned to visit, eventually becoming the teacher's most devoted student. When we're hurt, we often build walls. We protect ourselves by becoming hard, defensive, suspicious, or distant. Yet paradoxically, this self-protection often prolongs our suffering by cutting us off from the very connections that could help us heal. The path of compassion, both for ourselves and others, offers an alternative. This doesn't mean instantly trusting everyone or putting yourself in harmful situations. It means gradually opening your heart again, starting with those who have shown themselves worthy of trust. As you heal, you may discover something surprising. Extending compassion to others helps heal your own wounds. When you listen to someone else's struggles with kindness, your own pain often feels lighter. When you offer help to another, you reconnect with your own strength and value. An ancient teaching describes a vast net that stretches infinitely in all directions. At each intersection of the net hangs a jewel, and each jewel reflects all the other jewels. When light shines on any single jewel, it's reflected in all the others, and those reflections are in turn reflected, creating an endless display of interconnected light. This image captures a profound truth about human existence. We are all connected in ways we rarely appreciate. No one exists in isolation. Our hurts affect others, and theirs affect us. But the same is true of our healing. When you begin to heal, it creates ripples that extend far beyond you. The parent who heals old trauma becomes more present and loving with their children. The employee who overcomes anxiety brings new creativity and ease to their workplace. The friend who has faced deep grief can sit compassionately with others in their sorrow. Sometimes, the biggest step in healing is simply recognizing that you're not separate or alone. Despite how it may feel when you're suffering, you're part of something larger, a community, a family, humanity itself. This connection isn't just poetic. It's practical. It's the hand that reaches out when you can't stand alone, the ear that listens when you need to be heard, the heart that believes in your healing even when you've lost hope. These 5 lessons, acceptance, letting go, mindfulness, finding meaning, and cultivating healthy relationships, form a path that countless people have walked to recover from their deepest wounds. The journey isn't always easy or quick, but it is possible. And here's what I want you to remember. You don't have to be broken forever. No matter what has happened to you, healing is possible. The human mind has an extraordinary capacity to recover, to grow, and even to transform suffering into wisdom. If something in today's video resonated with you, if any of these stories or ideas sparked a sense of possibility, I invite you to take one small step today. Maybe it's practicing 5 minutes of mindfulness. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you trust. Maybe it's simply being a little kinder to yourself when painful feelings arise. These ancient teachings have survived for thousands of years because they work. They've helped countless people find their way from darkness back to light. And they can help you too. If you found value in this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. Each week, we explore wisdom that can transform your life from the inside out. And if you know someone who's struggling right now, someone who might need these exact words, please share this video with them. Your simple act of sharing could be the first step on someone else's healing journey. Remember, we're all connected in this web of life. Your healing matters, not just for you, but for everyone your life touches. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.